James found himself stranded in a series of dreary hospital stations, forced to endure the slow, frustrating process of recovery while the war raged on without him. As he lingered in these stagnant towns, his comrades marched north, confronting the French forces under Marshal Marmont, who had seized the opportunity to invade Portugal while the British were locked in the brutal siege of Badajoz. Wellington's army surged forward, driving the enemy back across the frontier, but the relentless battles had taken a toll. With ranks thinned by wounds and attrition, desperate measures were taken to replenish the regiments. Each battalion was granted authorization to enlist 50 Spanish recruits, yet enthusiasm for the British cause was tepid at best. In the first month, despite every effort, the 1st Battalion managed to recruit only 8 men, far from the reinforcements they so desperately needed. If you enjoy this type of content, please like and subscribe. This is Gairdner's journal. These are his words. Let's begin. April 8, 1812. A hospital for the wounded being established in Badajoz. I was removed there this afternoon and got into a very good house. Fitzmaurice, who is wounded in the leg, is also in the house. Johnston, who is wounded in the arm, has another house but comes here for meals. 9th. Johnston, finding it very inconvenient to come here for meals and go home again, came here this day to live in the house altogether. 10th to 14th. We remained here until the 15th, doing very well. There were 12 nuns in the house who came daily to see us. They were, however, almost all of them ancient. The army commenced moving northward on the 10th, on which day our division marched to Campo Mayor. The wounded were transported to hospitals at Elvish. 15th. We were removed in a spring wagon to Elvish, got into a pretty good house. 16th April to 17th May. We remained here all this time doing very well. 2 or 3 days after my removal to this place, I was able to walk about a little, and after that, I gained strength every day and gradually extended my walk. I went 2 or 3 times up to the Fort La Lipa, which is a most beautiful fortification. It is reckoned the most perfect fortification, I have heard, in Europe and is, I believe, impregnable except by mining. To breach it is impossible. For example, being situated on the top of a high mountain, the walls are not visible except either at a great distance from it or close to it within a few yards. The shape of the work is like that of most forts, viz., 4 bastions and 4 curtains. It has, besides, outworks of various kinds and is a complete masterpiece of fortification. Fort La Lipa is situated on the left of Elvish as you look towards Badajoz. There is another fort on the right of the town called Fort Santa Lucia. It, like Fort La Lipa, consists of 4 bastions and 4 curtains. Its situation is not so commanding, nor has it the same outworks. It is, however, very strong. The town of Elvish itself is a very fine fortification. The south side of the town, or what I before called the right of the town as you look towards Badajoz, is the part most accessible with respect to the nature of the ground. But on this side is Fort Santa Lucia, a strong work that could not be taken without a regular approach and which must be taken before the town could be approached on the south side, and there were small outworks being built beyond Fort Santa Lucia at the time I was at Elvish. On the north side, the ground is so steep and perpendicular that it would be impossible to breach these. Besides that, any breach dug there would be raked by the guns of La Lipa. On the east side, there are stony outworks. Besides, the ground is fully commanded by La Lipa and partly by Santa Lucia. On the west side, the ground is steep and unfavorable to an approach. The works of the town itself are very stony and defended by many outworks within the ditch. Elvish is situated on the side of a hill. On the highest part is a sort of castle, or rather battery, whose guns command all the lower part of the town. Elvish at the time I was there was garrisoned by Portuguese militia. The governor was a Portuguese marshal named Victoria. There is a telegraphic communication between the town and La Lipa, as there also might be with Santa Lucia. On the west side of the town, there is an aqueduct that extends a great way into the country, is built of stone, and plastered. I also rode one day to Badajoz, which is 3 leagues from Elvish. The breaches were repairing very fast. It appeared to be a very nice town and very well supplied. The army of Portugal under Marmont, during the siege of Badajoz, taking advantage of the absence of the British from the north, entered Portugal, laying waste the country and sending parties as far down as Castelo Branco and Vila Velha. The besieging army, however, proceeding northward after the capture of Badajoz, compelled them to retire. By letters received from the division while we were here, we learned that the army is cantoned. Our regiment is at Ituero de Azaba, the rest of the division in those villages on the frontier of Spain. 18th, there being an order that all the sick and wounded should remove to Estremoz as soon as sufficiently well to go, Johnston, Fitzmaurice, and myself set off this day. But thinking it too far to be able to travel in one day in the state we were, we determined to make 2 stages of it and went this day to Borba, a very nice village 2 leagues from Estremoz and 3 from Elvish. Johnston and I rode, Fitzmaurice went in a spring wagon. The country through which we passed was very beautiful. This place is renowned, and I think very justly, for good wine and pretty women. 19th. Went on to Estremoz this day, got into indifferent quarters. 20th. There is a medical board cited here 3 times each month. This being one of the days, we appeared before it. Johnston and Fitzmaurice got 2 months' leave to England. I got 3 weeks' leave to this place. 21st May to 5th June. I remained all the time here doing very well with respect to my injuries but very bad off for money. When Johnston and Fitzmaurice went away, which was, I believe, on the 23rd, I messed with Wellesley. He went off to join the regiment on the 28th. I lived the rest of the time by myself. Estremoz is a nice town, very clean for a Portuguese town, and I should think admirably adapted for a hospital station as there are many very large convents and large airy squares. It has formerly been a fortified town. It has on the highest part of it a castle, or rather citadel, and there are the remains of 2 small forts outside the walls of the town. The walls are, however, now going to decay. They are broken down in many places. There is nevertheless a guard of militia at every gate as if it were a regular garrison. The country about Estremoz is remarkably beautiful. Towards the south, on a ridge of romantic-looking mountains, on the top of one of which is situated a Voramonte. Towards the west, as far as the eye can reach, is a level plain, highly cultivated with all kinds of corn, particularly bearded wheat. The other points are equally beautiful and thickly wooded with olives, with which the province of Alentejo abounds. The women of this place have a peculiar way of dressing. They have a sort of black silk cloak fastened to the waist and brought over the head and shoulders like a hood. Almost all the women of this place dress in black. Editor's note. Only a few letters from James survive from the Peninsular, but given that he rarely mentions having corresponded, it is likely that he wrote only infrequently. Here he begins a correspondence with his cousin Laura, who was Edwin Gairdner's eldest child. Elvish, April 25, 1812. To Miss Gairdner, Albemarle Row, Clifton, England. My dear Laura, my aunt writes that you are to become my correspondent during her illness, but there is no reason why either my letters or your answers should be confined to that period, and as you have more leisure time and more convenience for writing than I have, except during my confinement while away from the regiment on account of these wounds, I shall expect to hear pretty regularly from you. I have very good quarters and am very comfortable, having been wounded on the evening of the 6th of this month in the storming of Badajoz, where our regiment, and indeed every regiment involved, suffered exceedingly. I was, on the 2nd day after, viz., the 8th, taken into Badajoz, where I and 2 other wounded officers got into a very good house and were pretty comfortable. There were 12 nuns living in this house, some of them Spaniards and some Portuguese, who were very attentive to us. They came up to see us every day and told us all the news. Their convent had been taken from them and turned into a hospital for the wounded soldiers. After staying there for a week, we were removed to this place, and a few days ago, I was allowed to get up and walk about a little, which I now do every day. I was heartily tired of being confined to my bed, but now that I can walk about, I can wait patiently until I am perfectly recovered. I was wounded in the face, the left arm, and very slightly in the right leg, which last is now so far recovered that I have the use of it as well as ever. There is no news here. The army is marching to the north to try to catch the French, who, of course, have very good intelligence of their motions and will take good care to be off in very good time. You must, when you write, tell me everything that is going on at home in England, for everything is interesting to a person that is in a foreign country. You must let me know everything, as well concerning yourselves as concerning all our friends both in England and Scotland. I understand that Ebenezer Gairdner, with his wife and children, are at Clifton. Of course, you see them very often, remember them particularly to me. I did not see Mrs. Gairdner when I was in London last. She was then at some place a little way out of town, and I had fixed with Ebenezer upon a day to go out to see them but was too late for the coach. We fixed upon another day, but before then, I left town for Portsmouth. Their son ought to be a fine boy by this time. I suppose he can walk and talk quite well now. The other, if I recollect right, is a daughter. You were one of the party in the journey to Scotland. How did you like Wooden and the Scotch people in general? I am very happy to hear that you are getting on so well in the musical way. I hear that the old maid and Mrs. Mallet are making wondrous progress. In a short time, you will be able to perform anything amongst you, duets, trios, concertantes. In fact, nothing will be too grand for you. You ought to invite Gordon, and then you will be complete, but I dare say he would prefer any other amusement just now to hammering at a flute gamut. I suppose you had plenty of real dancing when you were in Scotland. I recollect one evening when I was there when they were dancing reels as usual just before supper. My grandmother prevailed upon me to stand up for one reel, and I will be bound to say that nobody present, nor indeed anybody in Scotland, ever saw a reel danced in that manner in all their lives before. It was Rebecca of Mellendian who asked me first to dance, and I will be bound she repented it, for after jostling her, treading on the other lady's toes, and, I believe, almost knocking the gentleman over, I thought it high time to give up and sat down after having performed a reel to the astonishment of everybody. I had not certainly been under the skilful hands of our friend Mr. Denzies, whose well-known talents I hope I should not now disgrace by such an awkward exhibition. We have, sometimes, when we are quiet for any time in a town or village, dances. The Portuguese, but particularly the Spanish girls, are very fond of dancing and dance very well. I think you told me before that you have nothing of the kind at Clifton. I had a letter from my Aunt Gordon on the 17th of February. She says in that our Aunt Moody is still in Scotland in very indifferent health. I hope by this time that she is well. I also hear that your brother-in-law, Mr. Mallet, has been very unwell. How comes it that his wife remains at Clifton during his illness as if quite unconcerned about his welfare? This part of Portugal is very fertile and is the best part of the country for fruits, vegetables, and corn of every kind, but it is not so beautiful as the north, nor is it reckoned so healthy. However, I would prefer spending the summer in the north, because it is much cooler. You must remember me particularly to all friends. Is Mrs. Bell with you now? If so, remember me to her. If not, remember me when you write. Remember me also to Emily, Jane, and Gordon, and believe me, my dear Laura. Yours affectionately, James P. Gairdner. I expect to hear from you very soon and very often. June 6th. Having got a bill on England cashed, I bought a black pony from Manners for $40 to carry my baggage having been stolen the second day after I came here, and Leach and I set off this day to join the regiment. We went this day to Frontera, 4 leagues, a very good town in which we got a good billet. Leach has one of the Spanish bulldogs, who killed a leveret today. I met with a curious instance of the ignorance of the Portuguese peasantry today. When we were about 2 miles on our road, we asked a peasant how many leagues it was to Frontera. He told us 1. About a league further on asking another, he said it was 2 leagues. About a league further, another said it was 3 leagues off, and when we were within an English mile of it, another fellow told us we were 4 leagues from it. 7th. We went on this day to Alter do Jau, 3 leagues. It is a hospital station. 8th. Through Cratu and Flora de Rosa and Alpalhau. 9th. To Nisa, 3 leagues. 10th. To Vila Velha de Rodau, 3 leagues. 11th. Halted all this day in Vila Velha, a miserable little village. Bathed in the Tagus today. The view from Vila Velha is very extensive, but the most cheerless, uncultivated-looking country I ever saw. The weather is now remarkably hot. 12th. To Castelo Branco, 5 leagues, through a miserable country covered with gum cistus. 13th. Halted all day. Castello Branco is a dirty, uncomfortable town. Felt the heat very oppressive here. We heard here that the army had broken up from its cantonments and were marching on Salamanca. 14th. Through Algeciras, Alcaines, to Lardosa, where we dined, and after dining went on to Alpedrina. When I passed through this place on our way to Badajoz, I thought the situation beautiful, but now that the trees are in full leaf, it is doubly so. 15th. Wishing for variety's sake to halt in towns we had not been in before, and having heard that Covilhã was a good town, Leach and I set off this day for that place. Alpedrina is situated on the side of a sierra, which is a branch of the Sierra de Gata. The road from it to Covilhã is very beautiful, especially that part which runs over the sierra. It is thickly wooded with chestnut trees, wild cherry, and other trees. We passed through a straggling village, the name of which I forget, about halfway down the sierra on the other side in Fundão, a good town, at the bottom of it. We halted and dined at an uninhabited quinta about 3 leagues from Alpedrina, and after dinner went on to Covilhã. We got an excellent billet in a house outside the walls of the town. 16th. We halted all this day in this place. Covilhã is situated on the side of the Sierra d'Estrella. Its situation is exceedingly beautiful, the entrance to it particularly so. It has formerly been a fortified town, with a wall still surrounding it and the remains of an old castle in the highest part. However, many houses outside the walls are inhabited principally by Jews, for this place is noted for abounding in Jews, and these are far the best houses. Covilhã is renowned for its cloth manufactories, and inside the town are many good shops well supplied with everything. The country around it is exceedingly beautiful, making it by far the nicest place I have seen in Portugal. The Portuguese tell some curious stories about a lake situated on the top of the Sierra d'Estrella, which, they say, is bottomless and communicates with the sea. It is also said to have the power to turn wine into vinegar almost immediately. The French were in this place for 2 days when they entered the country during the siege of Badajoz. 17th. We passed through Caria this day to Sortella, an old Moorish fortress. I thought when we passed through this place in February last that it was a very nice place, but the houses are very poor, and all the country around is miserably barren. Its situation and appearance are nonetheless very romantic. There are 1 or 2 pretty good quintas outside of the town, in one of which we were billeted. 18th. Went on this day to Sabugal, but it being a poor place and much crowded, as soon as we drew our rations, we went on to Vilaboa about a league further. There are a great number of beggars in all these villages, reduced to this state, I suppose, by the last invasion of the French during the absence of the army from this part of the country while employed at Badajoz. 19th. Through Nave and the outside of Aldea de Ponte to La Albergaria, which is in Spain. We dined here and went on in the evening to Fuentiduenaldo. This is not the direct road, but being an old quarter of ours, we made this detour to see some old friends. From various circumstances and for various reasons, I felt a sort of melancholy pleasure on entering this place again that I shall never forget. 20th. We dined here and, after dinner, went on to El Bodón. 21st. Went to Ciudad Rodrigo, drew rations, and went on to Sancti Espiritus. Overtook Gray and Travers here, also Duncan Stewart, who is marching a detachment. The breaches of Rodrigo are not half finished, nor the forts either. The inhabitants are the sulkiest, most uncivil set I ever saw. Although it is 6 months since the siege, I saw unburied human skulls and bones lying in the streets contiguous to the breaches. 22nd. To Hubra, 3 leagues, where we dined and went on in the evening to Castro Enriquez. The road from Rodrigo has been woody, but as we drew near Castro, the country became one open corn country. 23rd. To a village called Calzada de Don Diego, where we dined and in which we overtook Worsley and Wilkinson of the 43rd. After dinner, we went on to La Rad, a place consisting of 3 houses. We passed through fine corn country this day, saw a great many peasants plowing, and there is throughout this part of the country every appearance of industry and tranquility. 24th. Went on to a wood about a league from Salamanca, where we found the baggage and commissariats of some of the divisions. We here learned that the French have fortified a convent in Salamanca in which they have left a garrison and some sick, that the 6th Division was in the town besieging this fort, that the 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and Light Divisions are in position in front of the town, and that Marmont's army is close to them. We also heard that the 6th Division made an attack on the fort last night and were repulsed with loss. After drawing rations here, we crossed the Tormes and went to a quinta on the bank of the river where we dined. At the ford, we met the baggage of our division going to the rear. After dinner, we sent our baggage to join that of the division, keeping our riding horses and boat cloaks, and set off to join the division. We went into Salamanca, which is a very fine town. The square and cathedral are beautiful. After staying in the town about half an hour, we set off to join the division. We found the army in position on a range of heights called St. Cristobal de la Cuesta. The 2nd Brigade of the Light Division, to which our battalion belongs, is detached in front to the village of Aldilengua, close to the river. The division is now commanded by Major General Charles Baron Alten, an officer of the German Legion. The right brigade is led by Lieutenant Colonel Barnard, and the left by Major General Vandeleur, who joined as the division marched through Portalegre on its march from Badajoz. That concludes the second part of the story. Thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content.